surveillance, vultures are in charge of public sanitation, owls do night surveillance, hummingbirds are attack drones, seagulls do coastal surveillance, hawks are the regional alphas, ravens are stealth attack drones, and parrots are obviously linguistics analysts.
Something that is quite concerning is that we don't yet know what all the types of birds are used for. We know a couple of them, but ostriches, for example, very different in design from other birds. We currently have no idea what the purpose of an ostrich is. Is it in preparation for some sort of war, for some sort of takeover? Is it specifically location-based? I mean, some of these things are taller than people are and can run many times faster than us. Flamingos, they're pink. They sit around eating shrimp all day, but they have this ridiculously huge beak that looks suspiciously like it could be a weapon. I mean, we just don't know what some of these are, and that's incredibly concerning. And those are some of the things that we will be investigating as we move forward. And as people kind of catch on to this, we hope to uncover those mysteries as well. What worries me most is if they could do it with birds, they can do it with anything.
The scary thing is that this bird drone technology is increasing. The newest models of birds have 360-degree vision and even know how to dismantle anti-spy equipment.
Did you know that when a bird sleeps, it doesn't fall over? Do you know of any other two-legged creature that can sleep standing up? Could you sleep standing on two legs? What other animal do you know that can sleep standing on only two legs? Nothing, because they aren't actually sleeping.
This is the sound that R2-D2 makes. And this is the sound that a bird makes.
Huh?
Coincidence?
As far as how the mechanics work for birds, think about this, okay? So, this is like, what's this? Robot, right? What's this? You can't tell anymore. Is this a robot or is this a bird? Nobody knows. Let me show you this. How about a little bit of a, like, right? Or how about I don't see a difference.
I think that the government's goal with bird drones is similar to any other mass surveillance system. It's like the things that we learned from Edward Snowden back in 2013 about mass surveillance programs, data collection through your apps and your devices. I think it's all part of the same campaign. I think they got constant camera monitoring on us. If they have, our location and our information from our devices, they also have eyes on us through the birds. It's all part of the same thing. Just keeping tabs.
I've actually started to do my own experiments about this. There's all these ideas of throwing them food and stuff, right? And I've realized, I'm like, well, the thing is, drones don't need to eat, right? But what do we know about information? Information is power. These birds, when you're throwing them food, they're collecting data. They're collecting data about the products you buy so they can sell your data to these other companies. This is classic big tech. Did you feed them Doritos? What kind? Cool Ranch, maybe? Was it this new Salsa Verde variety? They want to know. The birds are going to collect your samples and they tell Frito-Lay how you're living your life. That's what they're there for. That's why they pick up the food.
If you grab your phone and you take a look at the camera on the back side of it, you may notice that it actually looks exactly like a bird's eye. Have you ever noticed that? Look at it. Looks exactly like the eye of a bird.
The Birds Aren't Real movement has gotten so big that the government has started to speak up about it. An actual government Twitter account posted this. Why would they say this unless they were hiding something?
I was driving through a canyon one night, and I was having some deep thoughts, philosophical things, and then this bird, this white drone, swooped right in my car. People would say it was an owl. That's what they say. Totally interrupted my train of thought. The government doesn't want us to think, to philosophize. They don't want us to challenge the paradigms that they've put in place. That's when I knew that those kinds particularly were most dangerous. And so, yes, I see the birds that perch on the windowsill. I see the birds as I'm walking throughout the day, but it's the birds that stop me from thinking for myself. The owls.
So what happens when people try to expose the birds? There was once a British diplomat who found out what the government was hiding, so he jumped onto a plane to go to the UN to warn them, and this is what happened. Unfortunately, he never made it.
Sometimes people ask me what's the government's purpose in replacing all these birds with drones. It's a multifaceted issue here. First off, they want to keep us in line and make sure that we're being good boys and girls. They also want to bolster the economy. It makes it a lot easier for them to create repair necessities by flying birds into waterways or into power lines and destroying things because, as we know, the government has a monopoly on utilities. They can control when they can boost up the price or when they need to cut things back from certain communities. It gives them even more control over our resources. Not only do they have our personal information, but they also see what we're doing at every hour of the day. You'd be surprised just how often you might find a bird outside of your window.
As I got deeper and deeper into finding out what the government was hiding, I started asking myself, how does this all work? Are birds battery powered? Some people were saying that quarantine was really just an excuse for the government to collect all the birds so that they could switch out their batteries. And there were videos that had convincing evidence of this, but then I realized, oh my goodness, birds' feet are literally inductive charging coils. This has been in front of our eyes the whole time. The most common place that we see birds is when they're charging on power lines, and we don't even bat an eyelash. The government has been hiding their bird drones in plain sight, and most humans are too stupid to even see it.
They have cameras where their eyes are supposed to be, telephoto lenses. There's a speaker and a microphone right here in the chest. On their back and between their wings, they've got, like a wireless antenna. That's how they communicate data to data collection centers and whatnot. A central processing unit right around where their heart would be. Below that is their battery. And then the charging coils are their legs. They're polar. You need both to complete the circuit. That's why they're two-legged animals. Yeah, that's kind of the basic layout of a bird drone.
A few days ago, a brave mercenary snuck into a top-secret government bird facility and was able to capture a bird prototype. And now its electronics have been revealed. The government can't hide for much longer.
Sometimes people wonder, how do you explain the lifespan of all these birds that live multiple years? Well, if you track migratory patterns, you'll see that birds actually, when they fly south for the winter, are being cycled out every year. These birds don't live multiple years. They only live a few months, just like a mechanical drone.
A lot of people ask the question, well, hey, what about bird poop, right? My question to you is, have you ever seen battery corrosion? If you compare a picture of bird poop right next to a picture of a battery that's been corroded, it looks exactly the same. So when a bird poops, it's actually the corrosion of the battery that's coming out because birds go through this self-cleaning cycle that makes it so that they can get rid of all the corrosion of the batteries on the inside.
A common tactic that the military even uses with their fighter jets is they'll fly in a V formation. What this does is it reduces drag across the wings, and it allows them to fly further without expending as much fuel.
Have you seen these new AI solar batteries that lowers energy bills to zero with barely any investment on your...
We see the same thing in birds. And why do they do this? Of course, the government's trying to cut down on costs. The bird drone program has expanded so much, and with the government deficit spending, they need some way to maintain their surveillance without driving up the costs.
It's not just the drones either. The government has implanted birds into popular culture. I mean, as a child, Big Bird. Ever since we were little, we had this bird, this government drone teaching us to trust them, that they would teach us how to spell, that they were friendly. At such a young age, that kind of indoctrination is dangerous. You have the Eagles, a whole band called the Eagles. I mean, none of that music could be any good. And then you have sports, the Seahawks, Eagles, Ravens, the Falcons. I mean, are you kidding me here? It's right in front of us.
The connections run even deeper than you think. Johns Hopkins University, famously known for their medical research, which is actually just a front, is the highest funded university by the United States government. And what's their mascot? A blue jay.
You'll start to notice, if you look, where are these birds' nests, right? Like, how many people do you see, right? And how many homes do you see? Lots of people, lots of homes. Take a look at how many birds there are. Where are the birds' homes? They don't need them, because only living stuff needs homes. These birds, if they were real, would have more nests, but they all communally share these nests only when they have
I've heard a bunch of stories of people who have been walking on the streets, people who have never done anything wrong in their life. They've always paid their taxes, they've always been good civilians, and these government drones have swooped down and have attacked them. This could be a malfunction in the technology, it could be that a government employee is just having a bad day, but there are dozens, if not millions, of these cases.
Some people want to know how we explain birds of prey. If they're drones, why would they attack each other? It's just a clever way to switch out old parts. I mean, if you saw government workers everywhere picking up birds, people would catch on. But they have actually created specialized drones to do the work for them right in front of our eyes.
Before, birds weren't like a big part of my world. It's like they were there, but I didn't really pay any special attention to them. But ever since I've been keeping an eye on them, I've noticed that I can't go anywhere without birds keeping an eye on me. I don't know if the more I look at them, the more they look at me, or if I'm just noticing for the first time that I'm under constant surveillance. I can't get away from it.
I've had to completely redefine my social circle. I even had to quit my job and go totally online because they kept making me walk down this busy street to get into the main corporate office where there are birds and nobody listens. One of the reasons I had to quit my job was also that they were going to make me get a Twitter account. Of course, tweeting or a Twitter account is supposed to normalize bird behavior and make us more comfortable with the idea of birds so that we forget that they aren't real.
I use Facebook, I use Instagram, Snapchat, pretty much all the other social media apps, but I avoid Twitter. I feel like it's a pretty flagrant mock at us by the government. I think that using the word Twitter, the word tweet, the little image of the bird, I think it's their way of letting us know in a coy manner that they know what's going on. It's like fessing up to it without fessing up to it.
This one time, I was just chilling at the beach, minding my own business, and I was about to eat a Dorito. And I could tell that the Seagull surveillance drones were really paying attention because they, coastal surveillance, they want to make sure I'm not damaging the wildlife in the water or signaling to somebody out at sea to come and invade the country. And immediately, just swoops right in and takes the Dorito out of my hand. I've never been the same since.
Why is it that there is no winged flying technology for humans? Would that really be so hard to invent? I don't think it would. I think that it is a technology that is being kept under wraps by the government because they're using it solely for their bird surveillance program. I think it is being kept from us. I really don't think that it is beyond our ability to create something like that. And I think we would have
we definitely
it
should
if it
be able
wasn't
to
being
fly.
stomped
We
on
got
by the
everything
government.
else.
We've
We should be able
progressed
to
so much
go out the
into
door and
humans
just
with
fly away.
technology.
Like,
We have cryptocurrency, we
why
have
don't we have
artificial
that?
intelligence, but yet with
They're
all the
holding it away.
technological
They're holding it
advancements
from us.
we've made, we haven't been able to figure out wings or how to fly with wings. I think that it wouldn't be that hard to figure out. The only thing is that the government has a monopoly on wing technology. Every time someone tries to invent some kind of wing technology similar to birds, they're shut down by the government. Every time.
You know, Da Vinci, he tried to fly back in the day, but there are already plans in place during his time. Think the Illuminati are bad? Pre-bird organizations are even worse. Anytime we try to invent something where we can fly, what does that allow us to do? It gets us closer to the birds. The government won't have it. They have a complete monopoly on that. The only thing they let us have is big, giant, just bulky flying machines where you have to stay inside. Have you tried to get outside a plane while it's flying? I don't recommend it.
We live in a world where we've been conditioned to just accept what we see. We see birds and we don't think about it. They're just a part of our world. They have been since we were kids. So, it just kind of goes unnoticed. If you take a step back and really evaluate the data, evaluate the empirical evidence, it speaks for itself. You can tell that there's more going on than what you've been led to believe. When you look at them with a broader mind than what you've been conditioned to do in the past, it becomes obvious.
I think I was kind of personally disappointed. You grew up your whole life under certain belief systems. You're taught things by your parents, and sometimes when something challenges those core beliefs, you don't want to let them go. But there was just too.
Do you shop online? Buy from major retailers like Amazon and Target, but wonder if you're getting the discounts that you deserve?
There's just too much evidence I couldn't ignore any longer. It was just so obvious that birds weren't real, and I'm just upset that it took me so long to see it.
Ever since I learned that birds aren't real, it's really affected the way that I live, having this enlightenment. Now I have to close all of my blinds, and that certainly doesn't help with the agoraphobia.
This isn't just another conspiracy. There's evidence behind this. There are scientific facts that prove birds aren't real. I've talked to the flat Earth people. I've met people who believe in the hollow Earth theory, that there are reptilians running the government. I even met some guy who thought that Justin Trudeau was the son of Fidel Castro. This isn't like those. This is something else.
So ever since I've been investigating the birds aren't real theory, I've just been noticing little things here and there that never really caught my attention before. For example, like I'll be driving down the highway and you'll see some birds dive off of a pole and fly away, and immediately a couple other birds will go and take their place. It's like they're taking shifts.
It's interesting because we don't know if there are any birds that actually are real that still exist out in the wild. It's possible, but what we do know is that as the government drone bird population increases, the real bird population decreases. Remember back to when you were a kid, back in the 90s or the 80s, you would see nests fairly often out in the wild, and that made sense because there were still some real birds that existed. But now, as you look around, you will begin to see less and less nests and real birds around,
Right,
because
ain't gonna
obviously
burn, I think,
government
years.
birds don't need nests. And maybe the government is just setting up these nests to try to convince us that these are real birds. But just imagine what the world would be like if there was no nests. I think it'd be a lot easier for us to know what's actually going on.
Of all the planets in our solar system, Earth is the only one that has had billions of deaths. Ironically, Earth is the only planet that has birds as well. People think that's a coincidence.
Since I first became aware of the bureaucratic intelligence reconnaissance drone program, they're everywhere. Seriously, everywhere. Rooftops, power lines, trees. Seriously, look, open your eyes and look. When you get out there, they're everywhere.
Do you believe that birds are real?
Yes.
Do you believe that birds are real?
I do. I do believe birds are real. Yeah. They've been around for a while.
Alright, been around for a while. We trust them. But do we really?
Most people would look at this and they would say it was fake. But then they see other birds and just decide that they're real? What's the difference?
Well, since I have been looking into this, and surely I'm calling attention to myself by doing that, I've had to take extra precautions. If I'm driving and a bird swoops dangerously close to the car, I take it a lot more seriously nowadays, because you never know what they're doing, if they're attacking or just watching. I think a lot of it is their bluff threats. I think the government's trying to tell me they know what I'm doing, and the release of this documentary is something that scares me a little bit, just knowing that they will full well know what I know. That could put a target on my back, but I think it needs to be done.
I can't believe we live in a world where people still think that the earth is flat and that birds are real. So the next time you are outside, if you see a bird, pay special attention because you'll notice that it's looking at you too. The thing about bird watching is that it goes both ways.